Good evening and welcome to tonight's show. Tonight, we're going to talk about that whole struggle of having a balance between work, business, and family life. And we're going to dig into that with Greg in just a couple of minutes.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
All right, we are back for tonight's show. Now, Greg, I was thinking, you remember the old Great White North show with Bob and Doug McKenzie?
Oh yeah,
This
yeah.
could be.
You?
We could be that. Exactly. You got to get a Wisconsin and a Minnesota guy on the show today.
Sure. Hey,
So we
great.
could have done that. Hey, Logan, thanks for joining us here out on YouTube and Facebook. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the balance. How to achieve the balance? Is that probably the best way? Can we?
Can we even achieve the balance between work and life? Is it a possibility or is it a myth, especially if you're a part-time DJ?
For sure. Before we jump into it, what was your impetus behind picking the topic for tonight?
Well, it's something that I had a challenge with over the last several years because I have a very packed schedule, and I'll go into detail on that a little bit later on. But I had to find boundaries. I had to find places where I wouldn't go. I wouldn't spend time doing this. I wouldn't watch as many DJNTV videos. Maybe I'd just save them for later, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it was starting to affect my life in a lot of different ways.
Sure.
And I had a life-changing event. We discussed it earlier briefly, but my son contracted pancreatic cancer in December of 2017. And by 71 days later, he was gone. And I realized that life is short. Well, I had always known that life was short, but sometimes it's really short.
Yeah, wow.
So there are some priorities in life that you simply cannot afford to ignore. And we throw ourselves into this business in such a way, especially the part-timers. They're working maybe 2 jobs, plus they're DJing on the weekends, and one has to ask, where's the time for those other priorities?
Yeah.
So this became an important topic for me. I learned some things, and I thought I'd share them with the group.
Yeah, well, that sounds great, Greg. The personal aspect of the story, definitely a strong, that you're living this. You have lived it and live it every day. So let's just jump into it for those who want to get into the idea. So have you share your screen here? We'll make sure we're centered on our big screen.
Will do.
And we'll get her going.
I've got it right there.
If you guys have any questions, by the way, out there, you can put those in the comments section down below. I'm going to have to adjust this screen a little bit. That's what I was wondering. But you put those into the comment section, and I will be watching that. Greg's going to be going through and kind of talking about the different aspects of what he'll be covering, but I will kind of watch that. So you guys can ask questions and share thoughts there, and then we'll take it from there. So, Greg, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right. Well, thanks. My preparation for the show tonight was primarily for part-time mobile DJs, but I realized that work-life balance can probably be an issue as well for full-time DJs and also for club DJs, but I've never been either of those. We basically are all, no matter where we go around here, are surrounded by workaholics. And I'd like to start off basically by asking the group if you are a workaholic. For example, if you work longer than your colleagues, then you might be a workaholic. Or if you can't turn off, in other words, you're thinking about work when you're on the ski slopes,
Yep.
you might be a workaholic. If your body doesn't feel like you think it should, maybe you're not getting enough exercise, maybe you're using alcohol or something else as a way to deal with your the way that you feel. There's a possibility that it might be work-related. Maybe you're a workaholic. You're working too hard. You're working too long, especially if your relationships are strained. For me, this was the primary motivator. I had to make sure that for as long as I'm breathing, I have good, solid relationships with the people who are important to me. My mom's still alive, for example.
Sure.
But I want to be able to spend time with her that means something, that we can take away together, and that has an impact on both of our lives. And finally, if we have, and I do this, I tie the success in my work to my worth. If I'm not successful at work, I feel like maybe I'm not worth as much. And so if you're tying your worth to your work success, then maybe your work is a little bit too important to you. And this applies to DJs. It applies to people in all areas of life. But again, we're just going to be talking about mobile DJs for the time being.
Sure.
So let me give you an example of what my normal week is. So I start off Monday through Friday in my day job. And my day job, this is a mouthful. I'm an instructional design and training consultant. What that means is that boring computer training that you take, that's what I write. That's me during the day. And right now I have a client who is in Richmond, Virginia. So typically on Monday mornings, I'll get on a plane and I'll fly to Richmond, Virginia. And I'll work there until Thursday night or maybe Friday morning. And then I fly home. And so I actually spent about over 200 nights in hotels last year, and the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that. So that can have a pretty heavy impact on your, work-life balance. On Sundays, I'm really active at my church. I know you are as well. I'm actually in charge of the Sunday school program.
Oh, nice.
So that means in addition to attending regular services, I also have to meet with my assistants. And I also meet with my teachers for in-service meetings on a regular basis. And the position also requires that I attend a variety of training and administrative meetings.
Certainly, yes.
So my Sundays are pretty much off limits for anything DJ related. But I try to always get home and spend the time with the fam whenever I can. And by family, I've got 5 kids, but they're all adults. I have 15 grandchildren.
Oh, nice.
I know. I don't look it.
Yeah. Oh, but what a great
yeah,
point.
no, don't go there. That's all right. That's fine. But yeah, what happened was, our kids got to a certain age and they just reached critical mass, and it was like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
and there they are, and all of a sudden they're all over the place. So all but one is moved out, and I've actually got one of our grandchildren living here with us too. So Sundays is a good day to spend time with them.
Certainly.
But on Saturdays and on some Fridays, I'm a mobile DJ, and I primarily do weddings. So, because I do weddings, as you know, we spend maybe 20, 30, 40 hours of prep time per event, depending on the event. 40 hours might be on the high side, but there have been events where we've had that much to do in the event. But it's all spread out, from the time that they call you until the time that the event, until bar time. But weddings are probably the most time-intensive type of events that we can do. But these are what I love to do.
Sure.
Everybody's got their own personal flavor there. So where I'm going with this is enough about me. You'd think that I'm pretty much out of balance, but I saw a movie trailer recently that really reflected the way I feel about this. And it was for a new Clint Eastwood movie that's coming out called The Mule. Okay. And in there, you can hear him saying, family's the most important thing. Don't do what I did. Put work in front of family. And I thought, if it's good enough for Clint Eastwood, it's good enough for me. So I'm going to use that little quote. So here's the issues. Here's what's kind of making me crazy most of the time. Technology. It makes us accessible around the clock. All of a sudden, we're never out of the office. We carry our office in our back pocket.
Yes.
Not only that, but our clients have increased expectations, which simply means that they expect us to return their emails, to return their texts, to return their Twitters, whatever way they're using to get in touch with it. In other words, they want us to spend as much time on our smartphones as they spend on their smartphones. And that's their expectation. So that puts pressure on us as well. Also, when it comes to our day job, for those of us that are part-time, we feel like we really need to do a good job there, and we don't want to lose that. So, we're spending more and more hours on our day job. And I know in my case, that's a real problem.
Yeah.
I only get paid for the hours I bill, but if I don't get my hours in, it's money off the table for me.
Yeah.
So I need to get all my available billable hours in, or I'm going to make less money.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a compound. What happens is this never-ending work day, this feeling like you're always working, you can never get home from work, damages us and harms us. And the experts all agree that it can hurt relationships, it can hurt your health, and it can hurt overall happiness. So we have some tips that I've collected from Forbes magazine, from a variety of different sources. I can provide links to anybody who wants to reach out to me.
Yeah.
And these are some of the most valuable tips to me. So I hope they're valuable to the others. So let's look at number 1.
Sure.
I've got 6 of them, by the way. And see if I can get through my little double animation. Number 1. And we discussed this previously, too.
We've hit this
Let
one.
go of perfectionism. Perfection is the enemy of done. When we're young, we have more time. We might have a hobby. Of course, we'd go to school, when we're young, maybe a young teenager, for example, maybe an after-school job, and that's pretty much it. But as we grow older, our responsibilities just mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
And perfection becomes out of reach because we don't have enough time. And if that habit is left unchecked, it can become destructive. And there's a variety of different PhDs, people much smarter than I am, that say the same thing. So the key is to avoid burning out by letting go of perfectionism. And a quote that I found that I thought might be appropriate here is, strive not for perfection, but for excellence. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Make sure you do it well.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, this has actually saved me a lot of time, especially when it comes to the DJ business, because if you want to have every single T crossed and every single I got it. I do not want to mispronounce anybody's name when I'm doing that introduction list.
Correct.
But I don't have to memorize them.
Yes.
Okay. I admit I usually try to memorize the parents' names so that when I walk up to them, they're impressed by the guy. He came right up to me and said, "Hello, Mrs. Smith."
Precisely.
That was really impressive. But I don't try to memorize the 7th bridesmaid's, first and last name and what town she's from or anything like that. Good enough is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Number 2 is unplug, which simply means get away from your devices, whatever they happen to be. If it's an iPad or your smartphone, find a time, build it into your life when you just shut your phone off and enjoy the moment. And what that means is you want to make your quality time true quality time. Don't text at your kid's soccer game. Don't send work emails when you're hanging out with the family. It's one thing to put it on silent and let it vibrate and think, I need to get this, but that's just one more stressor.
Mm-hmm.
Turn the thing off once in a while. And that's actually a tip that I got from my dad. He used to hate it when I'd be talking to him in a restaurant and I would pick up my phone and talk to somebody else. And it's not just because he was old school, it's because I was being rude.
Yeah, for sure.
And even more. Yeah. So before I go on to the next one, any questions from you, or do you want to dwell on any of these? Please jump right in, because I'll talk all night.
And I think we could take any number of these things and go all night. We'll hit a few towards the end, I think, when we'll bounce back.
All right. Well, we'll be halfway through after this one. And this is exercise and meditate. Now, this is the one I'm working on right now.
Okay.
The exercise for me 3 years ago, I was in that space. Right now, I'm 50 pounds heavier than I was then. So by getting back into this, listening to a lot of Marcello, listening to a lot of Mike Walters,
mm-hmm.
I want to remotivate myself to at least get out and walk once in a while, get the blood flowing. Because in my day job, I'm sitting down. In my Sunday job, I'm sitting down. And the only thing I really have that I get exercise with is when I'm DJing. Mm-hmm. I'm hauling gear. I'm standing up all night. I'm out there doing the Cupid Shuffle or something like that. Yes, I am one of those interactive DJs. So we need to.
That knows
That
how
was
to
a
do
big
the
topic
level.
today,
It
wasn't it?
was again. That topic never dies.
We were talking about the Walter Bunn PhDJ podcast that we both watched today,
Yeah.
and it was a good podcast. But yeah, it was. Well, anyway, I don't want to lose my train of thought. I'm going to stay on the topic.
Yep.
The other part, when it comes to the meditation portion, I'm not talking about necessarily getting into a yoga position and going home, for an entire day. What I really mean to say is that you need to find a quiet time when you can just sit down every week at least and put your life in perspective. And I say that because otherwise the weeks flash past so quickly. And the next thing you know, you're a big 65-year-old bald guy who's just wishing that he'd done things differently. So what you want to do is build this into your life, build these things into your life, replace self-destructive habits with more constructive habits. But that weekly time period has really been great for me. For me, it's Sunday evening before I start my work week again. I just sit down, make a list of all the things I know I need to do, work out some time frames. Maybe I've got some brides I need to visit with. Maybe I've got this or that. And then I just move forward. And the week is a lot easier to deal with if I know what's coming. So work self-care into your life so that your body, mind, and soul are being refreshed. And people might say that, well, that sounds kind of selfish to me because I'm taking up time that I could be doing other things with. But that's not really the case. It's not selfish at all. When you think about, I spend a lot of time on airplanes. And one of the things that the stewardesses tell you is that if that mask drops down from the ceiling, you want to put yours on first and then help the person next to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you've got your son or daughter next to you, the temptation is to put theirs on first. But if you do that, what's going to happen? You're going to run out of air.
And then, yes.
And then you're both going to pass out. Okay, so the right way to do that is to adjust yours first and then help the other person. And so that's what we have to do too. Take care of yourself first so that you can take care of the rest of it, other business in your life. So we are also surrounded by not just workaholics, but people and activities that waste our time.
Yep.
So the challenge there is to identify them and try to eliminate them to the best of our ability. We might be cornered every morning by an office chatterbox if you work in an office. Politely excuse yourself. Maybe you've got drinks planned with the work gang just before a busy, important day or maybe before an event. Bow out, get a good night's sleep. Focus on the people and activities that reward you the most. And basically, it's devote quality time to your high priority people and activities. Know what those are and develop your best time to those. Set realistic goals is the next one that I've got on the list.
Yeah.
And what we want to do here, of course, is start out small and then work your way up. Because if you decide that there's a New Year's resolution, for example, that you're going to run 5 miles a day, chances are pretty good that first day will be so discouraging that.
And if it's not, day 2 will be for sure.
I can't even run 5 blocks.
Yeah.
So maybe your goal should be, I want to run 5 blocks.
Yeah.
And then you feel pretty good about yourself because you accomplished a goal. One of the articles that I was reading when I was researching this was a story about a gentleman who had as a goal, a very worthy goal, he wanted to be at dinner with his family 5 nights a week. And he was just beating himself up because the schedule only allowed him to be there once or twice. And so finally he changed his goals, lowered his expectations a little bit, and decided I'd like to be there for 1 night a week. And he was able to reach that consistently. And now he's having dinner 3 nights a week with his family on a regular basis. So that's real progress. And in my case, my goals have to do with measuring the amount of time I get to spend with my wife.
Sure.
And how much time I get to spend with my kids. So technology helps a lot. We use an app called Marco Polo. It's I don't know if you've ever heard of it or
I
if
haven't.
you use
I haven't
Marco
played
Polo.
with it. No, I
What
haven't.
you can do, it's we've got it on our smartphones, and what we do is just record a video, just FaceTime a video, and then that gets saved. And everybody in your group can watch it whenever they have time to watch it. So it's not quite like FaceTime where it's a real-time event. It's just it's something that you record, and then it stays in the cloud until the other people in your group download it.
Okay.
So this has made a huge difference in how me and my family keep in touch because they're all over the country. I've got a son in Las Vegas, and I've got 2 daughters out in Virginia. So, but I'm probably the least active user in the group. Bottom line is start small, experience success, build from there. So that's my trick for that. And then I guess I must have missed one over here. I'm not.
Yeah, I think it bounced past
I
one.
think I bounced 5, didn't I?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think there was one we missed.
Because I've got some really good stuff here on number 5.
I was wondering if it's like, oh, maybe he's going to come back to 5. Maybe 5 is.
No, that's the good stuff.
Yeah.
So for number 5 is, of course, change the structure of your life. And this is something that you have to do if it's necessary. For me, I'm a really lousy delegator. It's hard for me to delegate things. This has become evident to me at church because I've got 3 assistants who are supposed to help me with running the Sunday school. Okay. And I'm not exactly a single op. I have a partner, Russell Welsh, here at Spotlight Events. And so sometimes he delegates things to me and sometimes I delegate things to him. We consider ourselves pretty much co-equal. But we get a lot more done together than I could ever get done on my own. So delegation is important. And when I started writing this out, I remembered Matt Radicelli at Rock the House DJs in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And he was at Mobile Beat Las Vegas in 2017. And he gave a presentation called Delegate, Decline, Do. And I think he might have written it up for a DJ News article as well. But I do know that he gave that presentation at Mobile Beat.
Yeah.
Because for me, that made a really big impression on me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, here's a man who runs a multi-million-dollar DJ company, which is by itself hard enough to imagine for a part-time DJ. But his first priority is his wife and his 4 children. So for me, that was a great example because, I mean, he's speaking at Mobile Beat and I'm not. Mm-hmm. So There you go. Delegating is important, but what it boils down to is to find out what you can do to let go in ways that benefit other people by giving them opportunities to grow. That's really what delegating is. It's giving other people the opportunity to improve as well. Let me skip back into this. And what I also found out is that, we know this stuff already. There's nothing earth-shattering in anything that I read or anything that I'm presenting today. But we tend to ignore it or just think that, maybe we'll implement it later on in our lives. So what we do at work, what you do in your life, support and enhance each other. It's not, in my illustration here, it's not just, work is bummer, bummer, bummer. There's a lot of good things about work that we have in our lives, or we wouldn't be doing it every day. There must be something about it that you like, or you wouldn't do it. So keep in mind that there are things in your life and in your work that are not suffering. You're doing okay. But, there might be room for improvement there, too. Things you care about at work, chances are the same things that you care about in your life. You care about doing a good job. You care about your relationships with people. And as a part-time DJ, you care about other people having a good time. Mm-hmm. And maybe to a certain extent, in my case, you care about whether or not people like you. Did I get any applause? Are they dancing to that song? But when it comes down to the end of the night, what's really important is that you helped people enhance the most important day of their life, if it's a wedding, or if it's a birthday, things like that. You really helped people have fun. And that's one of the things I like about this. So there are things in my work and in my life that make me feel like a very fulfilled person.
Sure.
Now that I've taken control of those things a little bit more than I had before, I can see how I was missing out for years before that on many things. And, it just helps. It makes life better.
I think one of the things you mentioned, of course, that seeing and looking back and saying, oh, opportunities missed is the way I would describe it. And it's really easy to start beating oneself up in that. And I don't know if you found that, but I look back at some of the situations when we were first starting whatever business it was, and it's like, oh, the time I missed, or this, that, or the other thing that I didn't have, I didn't prioritize. It's really frustrating. It can be really depressing to be looking at that and saying, wow, opportunities missed.
You, Saturday Night Live, Chris, help me remember his name. Chris Farley, Christopher Farley. I actually saw he's entombed here in Madison, Wisconsin. He has His gravesite is at Resurrection Cemetery here in Madison, Wisconsin. I've been there, and he's surprisingly he's buried right next door to a bishop who was also buried there. So who knew that could even not happen? But where was I going with that?
Opportunities lost.
Yeah, the opportunity lost. No, but actually, I was actually going to quote him, and now I can't even remember what I was going to say about it. Okay, well, maybe it'll come back to me. I apologize.
Actually, I know I'm familiar with the quote because Adam Sandler, when he does his stage show, he utilizes that quote and I don't remember exactly the phrasing, but yes, it was in essence talking about how losing opportunities in life and not grasping the important things in life, and how they said that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so
okay. Thank you for making me feel better.
I know what you're referring to, but I can't think of it myself either. But I just literally watched that Adam Sandler special. Oh goodness gracious, probably about 2 weeks ago when it came out on Netflix, and it was pretty good. But anyway, sorry.
All right. Well, we're going to have to go out there and
we're
first one finds it calls. Okay?
There we are.
So I guess I could say that in closing, the lines have been blurred between work and life for many, many years in my case. I've decided to just kind of embrace it and work on the best blend for my life, because when work-life balance means different things to different people. And it might not mean the same thing to you or this person or that person that it means to somebody else. If people are really comfortable where they're at, that's great. But if you're uncomfortable, if you've got some pain points, and you can fix those by adjusting different parts of your life, and I hope some of these things help. Mm-hmm. It was an easy thing to research, and as you pointed out, it had a lot of personal meaning to me.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people talking about work-life balance. I found several articles that even questioned whether or not work-life balance is even possible.
In this day and age, as you were going through and making that list of things that kind of were workaholic type things.
Yeah,
some of those are just the way it is. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about your very first one. I think something about. Can you pop back to that slide? That very first slide, please.
Yeah, by all means.
This is where we're going to get chaotic, period, gang, because we're going to be bound. We've got and we've got a couple of questions.
Let's see if we can put it into a different mode here. Is that this one?
Yes, you work longer than your colleagues. That's Gary Vaynerchuk. That's his theory, basically. Getting out there and busting butt, working harder than anyone else, putting in more hours than anyone else, and really doing what needs to be done today for success tomorrow. He's not the only one, but he's one of the more well-known right now that are pushing that concept. And that is actually a thought and theory that I've grasped. The idea is that, here it's Sunday afternoon, the kids are off playing, and it's like, well, I could go and, go read a book or have some me time, or I can go and revamp this half of the website, and I'm putting time in the back of my head. It's like, okay, I'm getting ahead of the competition because now come tomorrow, I can do something else that's going to help get me ahead of the competition, that kind of a thing.
What you're doing is you're investing it on the work side, on this side over here on the work side. But if you never balance it back out again, then you're not really getting what you wanted. You were investing that extra time so that you could go to Cabo, or so that you could spend more time with your kids, or so that you could put it through college or something like that.
Precisely.
So, you need to be able to invest in this life side as well. What happens to us is we get caught in a trap.
Yep.
And we just this becomes our habit. This becomes our world. We spend all of our time redoing our gear and rewinding our cables. And meanwhile, members of our family are feeling somewhat neglected to some degree.
Very much so, and especially when you have younger children. You tell them no a couple of times, no, Dad's got to work, no, Dad's got to work, and after a while they stop asking.
Yeah, cats in the cradle situation, Harry Chapin.
It's so very true, and I've experienced that, and that's been a big struggle for me to try to change some of that. And that's, this is the time of year with the Disc Jockey News that we start reevaluating what's going to happen for 2019. And that's a big part of that evaluation, is to figure out how I'm going to move forward. I have 3 children who are older and 3 that are in that upper elementary, junior high age. that time, as they all say, is short, and I've got to make that decision again. Am I going to continue to invest in the business with my time, or is it time to put some of that time, reserve that for them in a way that will help them to grow and succeed? So,
would you describe your spouse as a supportive person in regards to your DJ business?
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
So would I.
Now,
we're fortunate that way.
Oh, for sure. Does she also think that I put too much time into different aspects of it? Yes. Because I do put a lot of time with the DJ business and the Disc Jockey News. This is a big part of what I do for income. And it does take away from family time. There's no question about it. I mean, that's the kids come home from school and I'm doing shows, 4 nights a week, as opposed to being in and helping with homework or being in there to answer questions. And when I come home from school, that's what that 4 to 6 o'clock time frame is, my time to, hey, what's gone on? What's today? What did done? And talking to them as much as possible. But it's that balance.
And if I was your therapist, and welcome to John Young's therapy session, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a pleasure to have you here. If I was your therapist, I would ask you, what do you feel that you can do to improve that situation?
Probably the biggest thing, and no, we'll go with this because it's great, and I hope there's people who can pick up with it. From my perspective, is there's a little bit of delegating that can be done, and this is kind of getting to Ramal's question, talking about delegating. I can delegate some aspects of what I do, but there's just some things that I do that can't be delegated for whatever reason, whether it's because it's all personality driven, i.e. doing shows, because it's tech driven, it's because of logistics, what have you. There's a few things that way. There's some things I probably don't need to do that I do that just could go away completely, i.e. spending as much time on Facebook and checking the different feeds to make sure that there's nothing new out there. I could probably eliminate some of that. But the biggest area, I think personally on my side, is that I'm going to have to look at those things that give us the best return as a family and as a business and eliminate other aspects completely. Not that I'm going to delegate those away. They're going to have to be eliminated, and we're going to have to make it into more of a focused effort with the time that I'm going to put into the business.
Well, John, let me say that your footprint on the DJ industry as a whole has been remarkable, to say the least. Not just DJ News, but the way that you've reached out through all of these different. I'm not just trying to, polish the apple, because I think everybody who's watching this here will agree with me that it has been you've been an inspiration to many of us, not just in the way that you do your DJ work, but in the way that you advocate on behalf of the DJ business overall. I mean, you're in a very small group of people who we look up to, because most of the time we don't look up to anybody in the DJ business. It's so competitive.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Take a moment, sit back and say, well, all right then, because you deserve that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I've heard that before, and as much as I want to be able to continue to do some of those things, I have come to that conclusion that a lot of those things that I do are coming at a cost. And I always talk about our time has cost, and that we need to be, it's not the financial cost anymore. It's that personal time with the children. I mean, Lori and I both have aging parents that are getting to that point where they may not be with us in 6 months to a year. And to be able to, I can't go and help because I've got to do this, or I can't. Then these are things that are either busy work or what have you. It's like, okay, I've got to reevaluate here of how and what's going to be the best way to put these things together.
Cool. Yeah, it's a great thing to think about. It's a kind of a hard thing to dwell on, because really most of the time we just want to get back to work, or we want to get back to our family. I'm just glad to have had a chance to share these thoughts with you and with the group here.
No, you had some great advice.
Everybody go out there and hug your spouse when you get, or your significant other and your kids, if any, or your dog, or whatever it happens to be, because you're not being selfish to take a little me time.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest.
But you are being selfish to take too much.
I think so, but not too much.
Hey, babe, I'm going to be out here at Joe's all night. Just take a little me time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know last night too, but
And it'll be probably tomorrow too.
probably tomorrow too.
Yeah, but you know.
I'm setting up 3 days early. Think of it that way.
Have the kids be guests on the shows. I've had that a few times. I've had my boys on the shows and such, and actually, you guys will get to see one, if not both of them, because they're going to go to NAMM with me in January. So that's going to be kind of a fun trip. Dad and the two boys will be with, and they're going to be reporting from NAMM, and we'll have some fun with that. So things such as that, opportunities to spend. Those are the types of things I'm really wanting to grasp and utilize here in the next months and years here going forward.
Well, that's really the challenge is trying to get your business set up in such a way that you have enough money to do those great things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're spending anywhere from 10 to 40 hours getting ready for a wedding over the course of several months, and sometimes it's over the course of a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to make whatever event that you're doing the best you can possibly be, so you go through all sorts of preparations to get ready for it. And at the end of the night, maybe they throw you a tip, maybe they don't, maybe they give you a hug, maybe they don't, maybe they leave early and they never say goodbye and you never hear from them again.
Yep.
Maybe they write a nice review for you, but it would be really nice if you could take the proceeds from that and treat your family to something really special. Because why do we do this? We don't just do it to feed our ego. We actually do it to make a living. So,
if you were to talk to yourself in your younger years, what advice would you tell yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a great question, especially
carpe diem comes to mind. Seize the day.
Yeah.
There would have been a lot of things that I would counsel myself not to do because I was wasting my time. The time that I spent under the influence of any external substance at all,
mm-hmm.
whether it was a beer or something else, that was wasted time. That was time that I didn't get anything done, that I didn't improve any relationships. I didn't move forward. So, no, I don't. No more.
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever it is. So that was a big turning point. I just made it too late. Another thing that would have made a difference to me is that I spent a lot of time trying to be a drummer. I don't know if you noticed, I've got a drum set behind me.
You got a pretty nice drum set behind you.
And but drummers don't make very much money.
No.
And so I ended up going into a job that I really hated for 25 years. I was good at it, and so I made a living, but I didn't. It was only when I found DJing back in 1983 and 1984 that I actually started having fun making money. All the other times I was making money and it involved stress or pain or having to be involved in a retail machine, which I didn't really like. So I would have advised myself to find an occupation that you can make a good living at. You don't have to get rich. You just have to make a good living and find something that when you get up in the morning that you love going to work. Well, when I know I've got a show on a Saturday morning, it's the best day of the week. It's just how much I like doing this.
Sure.
But to tell you the truth, my day job just pays me too much. Mm-hmm. So I can't be a full-time DJ, given the number of shows that I do, or given the number of, maybe it's the price point. Maybe if I charge $10,000 a show, I could probably get by.
Yeah, precisely.
But our industry isn't set up that way.
Not so much. And there's that, what I book a full calendar this year, and then there's that stress of, okay, now I got to do it again next year and do it again next year. And sometimes, I've looked back at that teaching. I taught for a number of years, and it's like there's times where that teaching consistent, let's see, once you're tenured,
there's only two solutions. You either have to duplicate yourself or you have to raise your prices.
Yeah. And
it's the only way to make more. Because you're already working as hard as you can work.
Yeah. That's what it is in this day and age. I've thought about, this is actually a question I've thought about, what would you tell your younger self? And there's a lot of things that I could give some, the fancy advice and different things. The only thing I would really look back is still encourage my younger self to go into the teaching profession. I think that was a key part of my getting to where I am today. The other would have been that I didn't do would have been to get into communication or theater in working in that area more?
I think there's a lot of us in this business that probably are leaning that way. I'm thinking of Bill Herman and others who would, acting, community theater, that sort of. I've done community theater myself. I'm looking forward to doing some stand-up comedy someday. I know that Ron Ruth has done stand-up comedy and several others as well, as just to hone his skills on the microphone. So it's no surprise to me really that you would express that same preference. Maybe theater would have been a good thing for you, but I'll tell you what, not a lot of actors make much money either.
Exactly. Nothing with that. It was just really getting prepared for what is going to come down the line. And that's this stuff, what we're talking here. And probably the other aspect of it would be with that in the business realm, that getting to remembering people's names and using their names in communication when you're talking to people face to face. The value of using people's names is so huge. And that I wish I would have learned that as a younger person, and to be able to remember names and to be able to walk down the hall and say, "Hey, Greg, how you doing?" That kind of a thing. Yeah. That isn't something that I grasped or worked on or what have you until the last.
Some people are good at that just naturally, but most of us have to work at it.
It's a struggle for me.
I mentioned the parents of the bride, parents of the groom before.
Yep.
And I'll use an example from a wedding we did this summer. I went up to a lady in a wheelchair who was wearing a corsage, and I knew that we were supposed to give a special welcome or a special greeting to the grandmother of the bride. Say her name was Anna Smith, for example. And so I just walked up to her and smiled and said, "Hi, are you Anna?" She says, "Well, yes, I am." I says, "Well, a little later on, we're going to be introducing you. We're going to say something like, 'Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the grandmother of the bride, Anna Smith. And I just want you to hold your hands up and wave. Would that be okay?'" She says, "Yes, I would. How did you know my name?" I have so much fun with that, but it's something that I have to work at. So back when Nate and I used to drive to gigs together, Nate's my son, I had my little flashcards, and he would flashcard me as we were driving there with the names of the people in the wedding party and see how many I could get right. I can't do that anymore. It's a distraction.
There's little
the officer
tricks.
pulls me over and says, "What do you think you're doing? Are you texting?" No. I'm just
I
working
need
on
you to go
flashcards.
here's my cards. Can you run through these quick with me? Sir, I did that with the other DJ, so I can't do it.
Yeah.
Oh.
It makes a huge difference if you get there and it's. Did you have your uncle DJ for you? He seemed like he knew all
everybody.
You guys.
Yes.
How did that work out?
I always enjoy that type of a thing where they're like, "You knew everybody in the family. Are you related? But you're too good for a family member DJ."
How can he belong to that family?
Yeah, precisely. Greg, we need to wrap things up. Thank you much for your time and sharing your story and your thoughts and such with tonight's show. It's great information.
Pleasure to help partially contribute to your body of work, John. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thank you very much. Greg, if people would want to reach out and just to chat a little bit about that, how they can maybe to improve that balance in their life, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, the best way is probably to email me. The email address is easy. It's Greg, Greg, at spotlightevents.dance. The Spotlight Events is one word, and .dance. And from there, I'll be happy to connect, share phone numbers and become best buds.
There we go.
So I can put that up on the screen again if you want me to. But
it was on that very first screen. I wanted to just have you mention it again, because most of the people they would have jumped. They'll have seen it and they'll go, but then.
No, that's what I do.
That's exactly what I do too.
I don't think you can copy it out there.
That sounds great.
My partner, if you go to our website, spotlightevents.dance, and click the contact us, it'll go to an info mailbox that my partner handles.
Sure, that
Russell Welsh. I don't know if you know Russell or not.
He is a very good man. Also, I enjoy Russell a lot. Well, thank you guys for being with us tonight. MJ is going to be up here in about 15 minutes, give or take. He's going to be talking about some virtual DJ add-ons, some things that are not virtual DJ, but things you can add on to virtual DJ for functionality. And then I'll introduce Dave and Jeremy when they're going to be talking later tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern, talking about when it's time to maybe not give that microphone up. Greg, once again, thank you much for being on tonight.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye, everybody.